When Jimin calls Jungkook a traitor on stage, BTS falls into stunned silence. What follows changes everything they thought they knew. Say it to me now, Jungkook. Tell them what you did. Jimin's voice cut through the tense air, every word carrying a weight the audience couldn't miss. Jungkook's response came sharp, almost too fast. You want to do this here? In front of everyone? Here is exactly where it should be done, Jimin shot back. Because I'm done watching you play innocent while pretending nothing happened. Namjoon took a step forward, voice low but firm. This isn't the place, Jimin. No, Namjoon, it is. It's the only place. Because if I keep this inside, it'll eat me alive. Jungkook's jaw tightened, though he didn't break eye contact. You're twisting the truth again. You're turning everyone against me because it's easier than admitting you were wrong. You betrayed us, Jimin said, his tone unshakable. You went behind our backs, made deals, and lied to all of us. To me. Taehyung's voice came hesitant, almost searching. What deal? What is he talking about? Jin's gaze shifted between them. Jimin, stop for a second. This could destroy. It's already destroyed, Jimin interrupted. I just stopped pretending. Yoongi, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. If there's something we need to hear, then say it completely. Don't start a war in half sentences. Jimin's eyes stayed locked on Jungkook. Tell them about the contract. Tell them about the meeting you had without us, about how you signed away decisions we were supposed to make together. That's not betrayal. Jungkook's voice was steady but carried a dangerous undercurrent. That's survival. I did it because no one else was willing to make the hard choices. Jimin's laugh was short, humorless. Hard choices? You mean selling out everything we stood for? You mean letting them control us more than they already do? Namjoon exhaled heavily. If this is about the agency, it is, Jimin snapped. It's always about them. They want control. And Jungkook gave it to them. Jungkook stepped closer, his tone cutting. You think you understand the situation, but you've been blind. You're too caught up in your pride to see what's coming for us. Taehyung's voice rose, frustration lacing his words. Then explain. Because right now it sounds like you went against all of us. I protected all of us, Jungkook insisted. Do you think HYBE would have let us keep making decisions as we have been? No. They were already moving to replace our say entirely. I stopped that from happening, even if it meant taking the heat. Jimin shook his head slowly. You didn't protect us. You protected yourself. And in the process, you made me look like a fool for trusting you. Yoongi leaned back slightly, his gaze sharp. So, this is personal, as much as it's professional. Of course it's personal, Jimin admitted without hesitation. Because I believed him more than anyone else here, and he used that to do what he wanted. Jungkook's voice softened, but the tension in it never left. I did what I thought was right, even if it hurt you. Namjoon's voice lowered, almost warning. If you both keep this going in front of everyone, it's not just the group that's going to fall apart. It's everything we've built. Jimin turned to him briefly. Maybe it needs to. Maybe we've been holding on to something that's already gone. Jungkook didn't respond immediately. Instead, he glanced across the stage, at the members, at the stunned faces in the crowd. Then, without another word, he stepped forward, crossed the edge of the stage, and walked away. Silence swallowed the space he left behind. The audience didn't know if it was part of the show or the end of something they'd never see again. The members stood rooted, caught between disbelief and the heavy realization that nothing would return to the way it was. Namjoon's voice finally broke the stillness. We need to end this here, for now. But no one moved. Not Jimin, whose gaze still lingered where Jungkook had stood, and not the rest of them, who were left wondering what this meant not just for the group, but for everything they thought they understood about loyalty, trust, and the lines between survival and betrayal. Open the door, Jimin said. It's already open, Jungkook replied from the end of the hallway. You walked past me like I don't exist. I walked past you because I don't trust you, Jimin said. If you've got something to say that you couldn't say in front of everyone, say it now. Namjoon stepped between them. Not here. Meeting room. 5 minutes. All of us. Make it 3, Yoongi said, before someone outside decides to turn this into their next headline. They filed into the small conference room behind the stage, where the air was thick with unfinished conversations. The door hung halfway shut, like the room itself refused to seal. Jin pushed it until the latch clicked. Speak, Jimin said, cutting the silence. Stop circling. Tell us exactly what you did and why. I signed an amendment, Jungkook said. A limited one. It doesn't give HYBE more control than they already had. It just makes them choose faster. Choose what? Taehyung asked. Budget, release windows, production teams. Jungkook answered. No more waiting 8 weeks for approvals that never come. They have to respond in 5 days. If they don't, our proposal is automatically accepted. Jimin let out a short breath. And what do they get in exchange for your heroic time-saving gesture? A trigger clause, Jungkook said. If we miss 3 projected milestones in a cycle, the company can temporarily appoint a decision liaison to coordinate us. Coordinate? Jimin repeated. You mean overrule? No, Jungkook said. Coordinate means consolidate proposals so we don't send contradicting plans. It's not a veto. Who defines contradicting? Namjoon asked. The liaison, Jungkook said. There it is, Jimin said. You opened the door and you're pretending you built a lock. I built a timeline, Jungkook countered. Because we keep choking on ours. Yoongi leaned back in his chair. How many milestones are we projecting? And who decides them? The group, Jungkook said. I insisted on that. You insisted? You negotiated for us? Jimin asked. Without us? Because we were stuck, Jungkook said. Because every time we tried to choose, we walked away with nothing but apologies. Because we were bleeding momentum and nobody would say it out loud. I said it out loud, Jimin shot back. I said I'd rather lose momentum than lose ourselves. Exactly, Jungkook said. You wanted us to wait. I wanted us to move. Move where? Into a leash? Jimin said. It's not a leash, Jungkook said. It's a deadline. Namjoon folded his arms. Who approached you? They did, Jungkook said, glancing at the table. 3 weeks ago. How? Jin asked. Through my manager's manager, Jungkook said. They said it was an informal conversation. I said fine. Then they showed me a draft. Jimin's voice sharpened. And you didn't tell me. I didn't tell anyone, Jungkook said. Because if I told one person, I'd be telling everyone. And then the draft would vanish and we'd be back at 0. You don't get to decide when we're 0, Jimin said. You don't get to decide it's better to break trust than to risk delay. I decided to take the risk that cuts both ways, Jungkook said. I signed something that forces them to act in days, not months. I signed something that costs me first if it goes wrong. What does it cost you? Yoongi asked. My solo leverage, Jungkook said. They wanted to bundle my next 2 projects with their overseas sublabel. The amendment blocks that. Everything funnels back here. If the milestones fail, they get a liaison. If they don't, we get our proposals locked in. Taehyung shifted in his chair. Why didn't you tell us you were sacrificing your solo leverage? Jungkook didn't answer. Jimin leaned forward. Because it's not a sacrifice if it buys you something bigger. What did you get in return, exclusive distribution? A private equity handshake? A ghost producer you've been courting? Jungkook's stare didn't budge. I got us a vote on the liaison. If it triggers, we get to approve who it is. And the liaison can't be an executive. It has to be an independent coordinator both sides agree on. Namjoon's eyes flicked to Jimin. That's not nothing. It's not enough, Jimin said. Because the liaison exists only if we fail. And who defines failure? Forecasts, projections, targets we don't set in a vacuum. I said we set the milestones, Jungkook repeated. With their supervision, Jimin said. And their definitions. Yoongi cleared his throat. I want the paper. You'll get it, Jungkook said. I asked legal to send the final. It's simple. 5 pages. Jimin laughed once. 5 pages that could shape the next 5 years. It's better than the 50 they were drafting without us, Jungkook said. Namjoon tapped the table. This is where we are. We can't unsign. We can respond. The question is how. The question is why he hid it, Jimin said. Because the moment he kept it from us, he agreed to their terms, isolate and influence. You think I'm naive? Jungkook said. They tried to isolate you too, Jimin. Don't pretend they didn't. Silence checked the room for a beat. What do you mean? Taehyung asked. Jungkook turned to Jimin. Tell them about that dinner last month. Don't, Jimin said. Tell them. Jungkook said. You're honest, right? Tell them who sat across from you and what they floated. Tell them what they promised you if you convinced us to delay 6 months. Namjoon looked at Jimin. Is that true? Jimin held his stare without blinking. Yes, they asked me to slow things down. They offered me a curated art project with 2 directors I admire, plus a seat at a creative council for the next brand campaign. I said no. Yoongi raised an eyebrow. You didn't tell us. I didn't sign anything, Jimin said. I rejected it, and I kept quiet, because I didn't want to add smoke to a room already on fire. You kept quiet for the same reason I did, Jungkook said. So don't pretend this is about purity. It's about timing. Timing is not the same as secrecy, Jimin said. I refused and I buried it. You agreed and you hid it. I agreed because our choices were shrinking, Jungkook said. I signed so they couldn't pick us off individually with favors that look like respect. Then why didn't you start with me? Jimin asked. If your reason was to keep us from being divided, why cut me out first? Because you would have refused, Jungkook said softly. And you would have been persuasive. And we would still be here, saying no and watching the horizon close. Taehyung exhaled. We are still here. We're here with a lever, Jungkook said. Use it. Jin rubbed his temple. All right, next step. We read the document we call legal. We demand the addendum Jimin wants. A hard cap on liaison authority, definition of contradiction, and an appeals process that belongs to us. And we address the part none of you wants to say out loud, Yoongi added. Who told them our milestones? Who told them our internal delays? There's a leak. Namjoon nodded slowly. There has been for months. Different departments, same pattern. We switch concepts and the next day, a rumor surfaces with our exact rationale. Someone is building dossiers. Jimin leaned back, eyes steady on Jungkook. If this is a war of information, we need proof. And we need to decide if we're willing to burn relationships to find it. We don't burn, Jungkook said. We isolate. How? Taehyung asked. Closed loop, Jungkook said. We pitch a decoy milestone to a very small subset and watch where it lands. If it leaks, we narrow. If it doesn't, we move the circle. Jin glanced at Namjoon. That's not subtle. It's not meant to be, Jungkook said. It's a signal. We're done being predictable. Jimin tapped the table lightly. Fine, we run your decoy, but on my terms. Name them, Jungkook said. Transparency inside this room, Jimin said. No more private meetings about group decisions. If the company calls one of us, we say, we'll bring it to the room. Second, any liaison requires a supermajority from us. Third, we choose the decoy milestone, and it has to be something we can deny publicly without looking like amateurs. We already look like amateur, Yoongi muttered. Jimin ignored him. Fourth, if the decoy leaks, we go to the board with evidence and we demand a joint audit. No more whispers. We force the room. Add fifth, Namjoon said. Whatever we do next, we come out together. No more stage surprises. Jimin's mouth tightened. Yes, no more stage surprises. Jungkook nodded. Agreed. Good, Jin said. Then we need to talk about why the word traitor came out tonight. Because I can't fix what I can't name. Jimin looked at Jungkook again. Because it felt like betrayal. Because I found out from someone who isn't us. They forwarded me a screenshot of your signature. How did they get it? Taehyung asked. Because the document was circulating, Jimin said. Not just legal, marketing, touring. Everyone had a copy before us. Yoongi straightened. Then that's the leak. It's not one person. It's a strategy. Let it circulate laterally so it feels inevitable. By the time it reaches us, it's already how things will work. Namjoon's voice lowered. Manufactured consent. Avarice. Exactly, Jungkook said. So I manufactured urgency. You manufactured a bomb, Jimin said. We just survived the first blast. Then we disarmed the second, Jungkook said. Together. Jimin held his gaze. Don't say together like it's a magic word. It's not, Jungkook said. It's a contract. You've had enough of those, Jimin replied. Namjoon raised a hand. Enough. Legal in 10 minutes. Before that, one question, each, no speeches. Taehyung? Taehyung turned to Jungkook. Did you think about how this would make Jimin look? Yes, Jungkook said. And it's why I asked for the liaison vote. It's leverage he can use better than anyone. Yoongi looked at Jimin. Did you call him a traitor because you wanted to shatter? Or because you wanted him to stop? Because I wanted him to stop, Jimin said. And because I knew the word would cut through noise, Jin asked Namjoon, "Do you still believe we can run this without outside hands?" "We can if we're willing to act like one mind," Namjoon said. "Which we haven't been." Jimin's turn. He faced Jungkook. "One question. If I had known from the start, would you still have signed it?" "Yes," Jungkook said. "And I would have begged you to sign it with me." The room quieted again. A soft knock came. Their legal counsel stepped in with a folder and a measured expression.
"I have the amendment and the communications trail,"
she said.
"and I have something you're not going to like."
"Put it on the table," Yoongi said. She slid the papers forward. The amendment is exactly 5 pages. The communications trail shows 3 internal forwards before the file reached legal. It started in strategic partnerships, then marketing, then tour operations. No single sender. But there's a pattern in the metadata. A shared machine ID for the first 2 hops. "Whose machine?" Namjoon asked. She hesitated. "A contractor assigned to strategic partnerships. The same contractor who has worked under different teams the past year. Their contract is set to auto-renew next week." Jimin's eyes didn't leave the folder. "What else?" "One more thing," she said. "A meeting request scheduled for tomorrow morning. Council touchpoint on group autonomy." That phrase appears in the amendment and in internal memos. The sender invited all department heads. The subject includes the word stabilization. "Stabilization," Yoongi repeated. "They're pre-writing the narrative." Jin looked at Jungkook. "Then we'll write ours." Jimin turned to their counsel. "I want an addendum drafted tonight with our terms. Liaison authority cap, appeal owned by us. Definition of contradiction, supermajority. And I want language that forces any council touchpoint to include at least one of us as co-chair." "I can draft it," she said. "But they'll push back." "Let them," Jimin said. "We won't." Taehyung spoke up, softer but clear. "And what about us? We need a sentence too." Namjoon nodded. "We do." He looked at each of them like he was counting lives. "This is it. We disagree without defecting. We plan without plotting. We fight without fracturing. If one of us is approached, all of us answer." Yoongi's lips twitched. "Put it on the wall." Jimin looked at Jungkook. "I'm not done being angry, but I am done being played." "Same," Jungkook said. "Don't mirror me," Jimin replied. "I'm not trying to be clever," Jungkook said. "I'm trying to be clear." "Then be clear," Jimin said. "Tomorrow, you speak first in that meeting. You own what you did. You say why. And then you say this. If the liaison triggers, it's on us. Not on me, not on you. On us." "I'll say it," Jungkook said. "And I'll say this," Jimin added, turning to the group. "I'm not going to call you a traitor again. That word is heavy. I used it to stop you. Consider me stopped." Namjoon let out a breath. "Good. Then we're aligned." Their counsel collected the pages. "I'll be back within an hour with the draft." "Make it 30 minutes," Yoongi said without looking up. She gave the faintest nod and left. The door shut completely this time. Jin stood. "We should run the decoy. Something plausible, not obvious. Announce a short film concept with an external choreographer we've never worked with," Yoongi suggested. "Make it sound like a pivot from our current direction. Something we'd be criticized for." "Too risky," Namjoon said. "We need an internal decoy, not public." "Then an internal training residency," Taehyung said. 2 weeks off. Grid with a producer known for rigid methods. It would raise eyebrows. Jimin considered it. "It's perfect. They'll think they can frame it as a discipline initiative." "Who do we tell?" Jungkook asked. 3 people, Jimin said. Ops Coordinator A, Partnerships Deputy B, and Tour Logistics C. Each gets a slightly different version with one unique detail. "We track the detail that leaks," Namjoon said. "We match the path. We trim the branches. And then we show the board," Jin added. Yoongi's eyes flicked to Jungkook. "You said you lost solo leverage. That's not small. Why didn't you use it as a bargaining chip with us first?" "Because I didn't want it to sound like pity," Jungkook said. "Or like I was buying forgiveness." Jimin's voice softened, but only by a measure. "We don't need pity. We needed truth." "You have it now," Jungkook said. "Make sure we still have it tomorrow," Jimin said. "Because if I get blindsided again, I won't use words next time. I'll use action." "Use action now," Jungkook said. "Stand next to me when I speak." Jimin paused. "I will." Namjoon looked at the clock. We have 25 minutes before legal returns. Then we'll rehearse the council meeting. No improvisation. They will try to bait us. Let them try, Yoongi said. I'm out of bait. Jin moved toward the whiteboard and uncapped a marker. Agenda for tomorrow, he said. Number 1, we open with our statement. Number 2, present our addendum. Number 3, introduce the residency decoy as a test of process speed. Number 4, announce that all external proposals addressed to one member will be returned with the line, bring it to the room. Number 5, request the contractor roster. Number 6, schedule the audit. Jimin stopped him with a hand gesture. No numbers. We're not giving them a map to dismantle. We're giving them a wall to acknowledge. Jin put the cap back on. Fine. Then we stand and we don't sit until we're done. Good, Namjoon said. Because that's what this is. A stand. Before we break, Taehyung said, I have something to say to both of you. Jimin looked over. Go on. I want to believe both of you made your choices for the group, Taehyung said. But belief isn't enough. So I need a promise, no more moves alone. Even if you think the other will say no, especially then. I promise, Jungkook said. I promise, Jimin said. Yoongi nodded once. Now we're a room. Their counsel returned sooner than expected, slid the addendum onto the table, and summarized each clause. Limitation of liaison authority to scheduling and resource coordination only. Explicit prohibition on creative veto. Contradiction defined as simultaneous mutually exclusive bookings. Appeals process, led by the group with an independent mediator chosen jointly. Supermajority set to 5 out of 7. Co-chair requirement for any council touchpoint. Non-retaliation clause for decoy initiatives. And mandatory contractor registry visibility. This is aggressive, she said. But it's defensible. Then we'll defend it, Jimin said. And we'll sign it, Jungkook added. Together, Namjoon said. They read. They refined a phrase here, a verb there. They argued for 5 minutes about a comma that could be read as surrender and chose a cleaner line that felt like a spine. When they were done, they had a document that didn't just close a door, it built one. Yoongi slid pens across the table. Tomorrow we put this in front of them. No flinching. No flinching, Jimin echoed. Jungkook looked at him and didn't look away. Thank you for not walking out on me now. I'll walk out on anything that tries to turn us into strangers, Jimin said. Not on you. Namjoon gathered the papers. Then here's what we do tonight. We rest enough to be sharp. We show up early. We arrive together. When the meeting starts, no interruptions, no tangents. We speak once, clearly, and we stop. Let silence do the work that shouting never could. Jin cracked a small smile. I like this version of us. Taehyung stood, pushed his chair in. It was always here. It just needed a room. They left the conference room in the same order they had entered. But something had shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even peace. It was a pact that didn't need a signature to exist. It was a decision not to be divided by offers that looked like prizes and contracts that looked like solutions. In the hallway, the stage crew avoided their eyes. The corridor carried traces of a night no one would forget, but the group moved without hesitating. They passed the spot where Jungkook had stood alone, and where Jimin had said a word they both now refused to say again. At the exit, Jimin paused and spoke quietly, just enough for the circle to hear. Tomorrow, when they ask if we're stable, we will say this. We're not here to be stabilized. We're here to decide. And we will, Jungkook said. Namjoon glanced at the others. Go home. Breathe. The next thing we say will matter more than anything we've said all year. Yoongi cracked the door. Then let's make it matter. They stepped out into the night, not as performers finishing a set, not as fragments of an argument, but as a line drawn across a floor only they could see, with a simple rule stamped into the space between them. No more stage surprise. No more separate deals. No more pretending that unity happens by accident. It happens because someone, finally, says the quiet part in the room where it counts, and chooses to be counted with the rest. And for tonight, that was enough. Read it again, Jimin said. I've read it 6 times, Jungkook replied. It still says what we forced it to say. Then say it once more out loud, Namjoon added. No slips when we walk in there. Jungkook didn't hesitate. Liaison authority capped to scheduling and resource coordination. No creative veto. Contradiction means simultaneous mutually exclusive bookings. Appeals owned by us with a jointly chosen mediator. Any council touchpoint must have one of us as co-chair. Supermajority at 5. Non-retaliation clause for any internal test initiative. Mandatory visibility on contractor registry. Good, Yoongi said. Now say the part that stings. I signed an amendment without you, Jungkook answered. I believed urgency needed a signature. I accept responsibility. Going forward, nothing about us is decided without us. If the liaison triggers, we carry it together. Again, Jimin said. Again? Jungkook repeated word for word, steadier than before. Jin closed the folder. One more thing. If they try to paint us as a brand crisis, we don't defend with feelings. We defend with structure. We point to the clauses and the reasons. We do not argue about style. Taehyung leaned forward. And if they bait us about last night, we don't rewrite it, Jimin said. We say we had a breach in process and we fixed it with process. Then we move on. Their counsel stepped in, crisp, calm. Boardroom 9 is ready in 20 minutes. The department heads are already in. The contractor in question is not on the invite list. Strategic Partnerships is, and they will try to distance themselves. Let them try, Yoongi said. They brought a match to a room full of paper. Namjoon stood. We go in together. No one lags behind. They walked the corridor in a line that needed no choreography. The door to boardroom 9 opened with an efficient click. Inside, department heads clustered in pairs, conversations bending into silence as the group entered. Hybe's council chair sat at the head of the long table. Glasses perched, hands folded, neutral like a blank statement. Thank you for coming on short notice, the chair said. Let's stabilize. We're not here to be stabilized, Jimin said, taking his seat. We're here to decide. A near imperceptible pause flickered across the table. The chair adjusted course. Then let's decide clear paths. We received questions about the amendment. I'll start, Jungkook cut in. I signed the amendment. I did it because timelines were being used as tools to grind us down. I negotiated constraints that make waiting a liability for you, not us. I also restricted any emergency liaison to coordination only. No veto. If it triggers, we approve the person, and we can appeal to a mediator. We brought an addendum that clarifies every ambiguous term you could weaponize. Marketing's director lifted a hand. The tone is not the point, Namjoon said. We're discussing structure. Strategic Partnerships cleared a throat. From our vantage, the amendment creates a risk. If milestones fail, Jin didn't let the sentence land. We set the milestones. That's in the text. Our addendum hard defines failure to avoid creative metrics masquerading as fact. No more goals written after the outcome. The chair tapped a pen once, not impatient, just marking the shift. We've received the addendum. It is aggressive. It is proportional, Jimin replied. To a year of drift, pressure, and selective secrecy, tour operations spoke without preamble. Selective secrecy was not our instruction. Then someone used your headers without your consent, Yoongi said. Because the file moved through your machine IDs before it reached legal. The head of tour operations looked to Strategic Partnerships. Explain. Strategic Partnerships frowned. We shared a preliminary for context. No sign-off, just visibility. Visibility isn't a neutral act when the draft becomes a narrative, Jimin said. By the time the document reached us, it looked inevitable. That was the play. Circulate it laterally until refusal feels like vandalism. The chair set the pen down. We can audit the path, but we are not here to litigate headers. We need to ensure the coming cycle delivers outcomes. Taehyung leaned in. Outcomes require a floor, not fog. The addendum is the floor. The chair nodded toward legal counsel seated along the wall. Is the addendum compatible with our governance model? Their in-house counsel hesitated. Some clauses can fit. The non-retaliation and co-chair requirements are novel, but not insurmountable. The liaison limitation conflicts with standard emergency powers language. Our emergency isn't a fire drill, Namjoon said. It's coordination. You won't be deciding our songs. Marketing attempted a pivot. Public narrative matters. Last night introduced a perception issue. We propose a joint statement that emphasizes unity and no language that treats us like a mascot, Jimin said. We will not pose as stable while you keep your hand on the scale. A junior VP 2 seats down couldn't help himself. You're emotional. Jimin didn't blink. We're precise. The difference is that we remember who pays for imprecision. Jungkook placed the addendum on the table, slid copies to the chair and council. Read it. It says yes to speed and no to control dressed up as coordination. It says we set expectations with you, not after you. It says if someone leaks our internal tests, they don't get to call that transparency. They get an audit. The chair skimmed, then slowed. Supermajority at 5 is a high bar. It's our bar, Yoongi said. We've crossed worse. The chair looked up. The liaison cap to scheduling and resources is non-negotiable, Namjoon said. We will not give a stranger our voice just because a calendar turned red. Strategic partnerships tried a different vector. Let's talk about your internal process, not just ours. The amendment triggered because of missed targets. Perhaps those misses reflect... Jin's reply was immediate. They reflect intentional pauses. We refused 2 campaigns that would have sliced us 6 ways for short-term reach. Those were not failures. They were decisions. Tour operations pursed a lip. And the decoy residency? The room shifted. Jimin's line was steady. What decoy residency? Tour operations blinked, recalibrated. A proposal circulated this morning suggesting a 2-week residency with a certain producer known for intense regimens. That proposal was internal, Namjoon said. Interesting that you've seen it. Silence fell for a beat that said everything. The chair fixed a look on tour operations. Where did you receive it? Tour operations answered too quickly. Ops coordinator flagged it in a morning digest. Which version? Yoongi asked. The one that mentioned a remote site? The one that mentioned peer shadowing? Or the one that swapped the producer's name for a method pedagogy label? Tour operations faltered. The peer shadowing. Namjoon glanced at Jimin, then turned to their council. Mark that. The council nodded, wrote 1 line, and put the pen down like it was a stamp. Strategic partnerships shifted in the seat. If we're trading accusations, we'll never reach... We reached, Jimin said. We reached enough to know the pattern. The chair interlaced fingers. You're running sting operations on your own company. We're running boundaries, Jimin said, because ours were turned into suggestions. The chair held his gaze, then looked to their council. We can accept co-chair, non-retaliation, and contractor registry visibility. We can accept a supermajority at 5 for internal decisions. We can define contradiction as mutually exclusive bookings and resource locks. But liaison limitation to scheduling and resources, only this will be a fight. Then fight, Jungkook said, because your alternative is to keep using crisis language for calendar problems. That ends today, in-house counsel whispered to the chair. The chair listened, then nodded once. We want a moratorium on public comments from your accounts for 48 hours while we align messaging. No, Jimin said. We will post today. It will be 1 paragraph. It will say we are refining process to protect creative clarity and timely delivery. Nothing more. Nothing about healing. Nothing about misunderstandings. Nothing that invites speculation. If you mirror it, fine. If you can't, don't post. We are not a rumor control division. Marketing's director raised a tactical palm. You risk ceding the narrative. We just took it, Yoongi said. By refusing to sound like a hostage note. The chair exhaled, not in defeat but in calculation. Fine. 1 paragraph. Draft it before you leave. We will not alter it. We will decide on whether to mirror after legal review. The chair tapped the addendum. On this, we require a revised liaison clause that at least allows temporary prioritization calls if schedules jam. Namjoon considered, then nodded once. Prioritization is logistics, not creative. Your clause can say, the liaison may reorder resource allocation and sequencing to alleviate schedule conflicts, provided no change affects the substance of creative outputs or vetoes a group decision. In-house counsel took it down. That is feasible. Jin added, any liaison action must be logged in a shared record accessible to us in real time. No side emails. Agreed murmurs passed along the wall. The chair looked toward strategic partnerships. And the contractor? Strategic partnerships straightened, rehearsed. We will suspend the contractor pending the audit. If malfeasance is found, we will terminate and refer the results to compliance. We request your decoy materials as part of the examination. You'll get 'em, Jimin said, and you'll see 3 unique markers. Follow any one of them and you'll trace your own lines. Taehyung spoke for the first time since the clause debate. After the audit, we want an all-hands with department heads and our team where we present the new process and make one thing plain. Any proposal addressed to one of us returns with a single sentence, bring it to the room. Marketing's director seemed to accept that one with relief. That actually helps. Good, Jimin said. We won't make your job harder, just cleaner. The chair glanced around the table, found no immediate resistance, and drew a line. We will integrate most of the addendum within 72 hours, with the liaison language adjusted as discussed. We will begin the audit today. We will expect professional conduct in all spaces. The chair's eyes settled on Jungkook. Signing without your group was a breach. Jungkook nodded. It was. It won't happen again. The chair waited a beat to see if that admission would be used to extract more. When it wasn't, the chair moved on. And the word spoken on stage? Jimin didn't flinch. It won't be used again. The chair took that in, then closed the folder. Then we have a path. We will reconvene in 48 hours to sign the integrated addendum. You will deliver your statement today. This meeting is adjourned. As chair scraped back, the room's hum returned in a clipped, careful register. Their counsel gathered the papers and stayed close as department heads filtered out. Marketing's director lingered. For what it's worth, he said to Jimin, I prefer this version of directness. I can work with this. Then work with it, Jimin said. Because this is the last version. Tour operations approached Jungkook. The residency detail, we received it legitimately. Of course you did, Jungkook said. The question is who handed it to you. Tour operations glanced toward a door. The ops coordinator you named. Then loop us in when you ask them why, Yoongi said from 3 steps away. No private chats. Tour operations lifted a hand in a brief pledge and walked off. In the hallway, the group slowed only when the boardroom door had clicked shut behind them. Namjoon stopped by a glass wall and looked at the city they weren't describing. Draft the paragraph, he said to Jin. Jin didn't ask for help. We are refining how we decide, so what we make lands on time and intact. Nothing about us changes, except the part that should have changed sooner. The rules of the room. Add one more line, Yoongi said. We will speak less and do more. Jin nodded, typed, handed the phone to Namjoon. Namjoon scanned. No adjectives. Good. He passed it to Jimin. Jimin read, then passed it to Jungkook. Post from the group account. Then we each share it without comment. Jungkook hit send, then put the device away like he was burying a habit. Their counsel approached with a printed sheet. 2 things. 1. Ops has already suspended the contractor's credentials. 2. Strategic Partnerships asked if you'd consider a list of 3 potential independent mediators for appeals. They want to avoid a fight over the mediator. Fine, Namjoon said. They send their 3, we send our 3. We agree on one together. And a 3rd thing, she added. There's a quiet invite in your inboxes to a fireside with a high-profile external executive. Decline it. It is a soft strategy to create the optics of mentorship and diffuse your leverage. Jimin didn't bother to open his email. Declined. They moved toward the elevator, but before the doors opened, Yoongi's phone buzzed. He glanced and exhaled through his nose. Decoy leak. Just hit a gossip forum. It's the peer-shadowing phrase, plus 1 extra verb we ceded only to the partnership's deputy. Namjoon didn't smile, but something like grim satisfaction ran under the words. Mark it. We have our first clean line. Do we move now or wait for the audit to catch up? Jin asked. We wait, Jimin said. But we don't forget who liked the post first. They rode down in a silence that wasn't empty. It was calculation reset as resolve. In the lobby, a PR handler approached, openly nervous. Do you want a photo on exit? No, Jimin said. We want the door. Outside. The air didn't press for attention. They walked to the car as a unit, none of them performing unity, each of them choosing it like a habit they were forcing into muscle. Once inside, Namjoon spoke first. Debrief in 10 minutes back at the room, he said. We'll plan the all-hands, choose our mediator list, assign outreach to the board for the audit timeline, and decide the internal statement we read to staff. Say it in 1 sentence, Yoongi said. No one remembers more than that. Namjoon nodded and drafted it aloud. Our work is built by disagreement held inside a process strong enough to keep us together. That's it, Jin said. Put it on the wall. Back upstairs, they reconvened without the tilt of adrenaline. Their counsel pinned the addendum draft to a shared screen and highlighted 2 phrases that might invite misinterpretation if left loose. Jimin went line by line until every soft spot was tightened without turning brittle. Taehyung volunteered to lead the introduction in the all hands. Not because he wanted the spotlight, but because he knew his calm would lower the room's pulse without a single soothing word. Who announces the audit? Jin asked. I will, Namjoon said. And I'll make it procedural, not punitive. This is a systems check, not a witch hunt. But the line that matters. No proposal to one member gets a response from one member. Jungkook watched Jimin across the table. When the others took a moment to check their screens, he spoke quietly enough to make the words land only where they were aimed. I meant what I said earlier. Thank you for standing next to me. I didn't do it for you, Jimin said. I did it for the room we say we want. But I won't pretend your words didn't land. They weren't designed to soften, Jungkook replied. Only to stop the bleeding I caused. Good, Jimin said. Keep speaking like that in rooms that matter. Their counsel glanced up. One more item. The contractor used a corporate laptop that's already been turned over. Compliance flagged a recurring login pattern routed through a shared desk in strategic partnerships. That desk rotated through 3 temps the past quarter. The machine ID suggests a single user, despite different names on the seating chart. So a ghost seat, Yoongi said. Someone parked their access where faces change. Compliance suspects a manager-level assignment using a temp profile for plausible deniability, she added. They'll need your decoy emails formally to tie the chain. You'll have them, Jimin said. We kept the timestamps clean. Namjoon checked the time. All hands in 1 hour. We'll keep it under 20 minutes. No QA. We accept written questions after, and we answer in a single memo tomorrow. Jin finished the internal sentence for staff and read it aloud. Our decisions will not be dictated by pressure or personality. We will argue here and decide here, then move together. If you're asked to choose one of us over the rest, your answer is simple. Bring it to the room. Send it, Namjoon said. They stood, not ceremonially, just in the rhythm of a machine that had finally been oiled where it had been squealing. On their way out, Taehyung paused at the whiteboard and wrote the 3 lines he had promised himself he would remember when things got loud again. Disagree without defecting. Plan without plotting. Fight without fracturing. In the all hands, they did exactly what they had agreed to do. No dramatics, no subtext games. Taehyung opened with a short frame. Namjoon set the audit timing and its scope. Jin read the sentence. Jimin introduced the addendum as a standard, not a rescue. Yoongi explained the decoy as a protective measure, not a trap. Jungkook closed with 1 admission and 1 promise, nothing more. When it ended, there was no applause, and there were no whispers. Staff filed out with the expressionless calm of professionals who had just been given a rule that might finally free them from guessing which voice mattered most on any given day. Back in the room, the group let themselves sit for the first time since morning. The mood wasn't relief, it was accuracy. They had not fixed everything. They had put it in a frame. Jungkook's phone buzzed again. He glanced, then turned the screen for the table to see. A message from a well-known external executive read, Coffee? Off? The record. I admire your push. Happy to advise. He didn't hesitate. He typed, Appreciate it. We're meeting as a group with our board. We'll bring it to the room and hit send. Jimin's mouth curved the smallest degree toward approval that didn't need performance. Good. Their counsel returned with compliance's initial read. The contractor seat is confirmed as a ghost seat. The peer-shadowing phrase appears word for word in a thread between partnership's deputy and tour ops. That thread was forwarded to a third party half an hour later with a personal address outside the company directory. Out loud, Namjoon said. Say the conclusion. There is an internal actor passing material to an external source, she replied. Audit proceeds with authority to isolate and remove access within 24 hours. Do it, Jimin said. And publish the policy change when you're done. Every person in this building deserves to know the new rules. Evening crept closer on the clock. They refused to romanticize. They drafted the mediator list. They built a shared dashboard for liaison logs should the clause ever trigger. They agreed on a rotating co-chair plan so no one voice became the designated adult in rooms that demanded all 7. Before they broke, Namjoon asked one last question that had nothing to do with documents. Do we need to say anything to each other we haven't said? Yoongi shook his head. We'll save it for when saying it doesn't pull focus from the work. Jin looked at Jungkook. If you feel the urge to fix something alone, pick up the phone instead. I will, Jungkook said. Taehyung looked at Jimin. And if anger is useful, use it to cut through their fog, not to cut one of us. I know, Jimin said. I used a word last night because I thought I needed an explosion. Turns out we needed an agenda. We needed a wall, Yoongi corrected. Now we have one. They left the room like they had entered it together. Not matching strides, not mimicking affect, just aligning in a way that shifted the building's center of gravity without anyone outside being able to name why. The statement they'd posted climbed across feeds without the predictable drama. It didn't try to make anyone feel something. It told people what would happen next. That, more than apologies or slogans, changed the temperature of the conversation online. By the time the night stretched thin, the audit had locked 3 accounts and quietly changed 2 door codes. The partnership's deputy, who had forwarded the decoy's unique phrase, requested a meeting the next morning. They didn't accept. They sent a line. Bring it to the room. Jimin stood at the threshold before leaving and looked back just once at the whiteboard. The 3 lines waited, simple and stubborn. He didn't say anything to them. He didn't have to. He stepped out into a corridor with no audience, no spotlight, no scene to play. He sent one message to the group thread. Thanks for today. Do not forget tomorrow. Jungkook replied first. I won't, Namjoon added. We won't. Yoongi sent a single check mark. Jin sent the word onward. Taehyung sent nothing, but his red receipt landed like a nod. The building settled. The city kept doing what it always did, whether anyone watched or not. And for once, the story didn't need an ending line that tried to coin a legend. It only needed the fact that 7 people had turned a breach into a boundary and a night into a new normal, with a sentence that would be waiting wherever the next offer arrived, pretending to be a gift. Bring it to the room. Read the subject line, Namjoon said. Jin read it aloud. Clarification meeting regarding process integrity. Process integrity, Yoongi repeated. Translation. They want to spin before we speak. Jungkook looked at the clock. We said no private meetings. We hold to it. They requested 9 a.m. with just 2 of us, their counsel added. Partnerships, deputy, and their manager. They called it a pre-brief. Decline, Jimin said. And send the line. Their counsel typed without ceremony and hit send. A reply landed almost immediately with a softened header and a smiley the sender probably thought made them look human. It didn't. Boardroom 11 in an hour, Namjoon said. The audit team will present preliminary findings. After that, staff memo. Then our call with outside counsel on the mediator pool. Then the contractor roster review. After that, we sleep. Speak for yourself, Yoongi said dryly. I scheduled nothing after midnight on purpose. Taehyung leaned forward, elbows on the table, not for comfort but to anchor the conversation. Let's decide one more thing before the audit begins. If today's meeting uncovers a name we know, do we call it out in the room or wait for process? We keep to process, Namjoon said. We don't feed a spectacle. I agree, Jungkook said. If we blow up in the room, we give them the story they want. I won't grandstand, Jimin said. But I won't protect anyone either. If they turn this into a plea for leniency because we're all family, I will shut it down. We're not a family, Yoongi said. We're a team. Families confuse loyalty with silence. Teams measure loyalty by accountability. Put that in the staff memo, Jin said. Their counsel looked up. It's in. They walked into boardroom 11 with the same unhurried pace that had started to feel like armor. The audit lead sat with 2 analysts and a compliance officer who wore the clipped patience of someone accustomed to excuses and allergic to them. Laptops opened. A short stack of printed pages waited like a verdict that had decided not to dress up. Thank you for moving quickly, Namjoon began. We moved because you handed us a map, the audit lead said. Your 3 decoy variants were clean, the timestamps were clean, and the forwarding trails expose a pattern that predates the amendment. Start with today, Jimin said. Then widen. The audit lead nodded to the analyst on the left who projected a simple chain. Variant A remote site remained contained. Variant C method pedagogy remained contained. Variant B peer shadowing was forwarded by the partnership's deputy to tour operations with a CC to an external address from a personal domain. 4 minutes later, the external address forwarded to an industry blogger who has run posts sympathetic to council initiatives. Name the domain, Yoongi said. The analyst didn't flinch. The personal domain ends in the manager's first and last name.com. Jin exhaled through his nose. So, the manager owns the conduit. The manager claims they were cataloging possibilities for cross-functional learning, the compliance officer said. We do not believe that explanation. Neither do we, Jimin said. Who's the external blogger? The audit lead answered. A consultant who brands themselves as a creative process insider. They've pushed narratives favoring stronger, centralized coordination for 2 years. Namjoon's voice stayed even. What about the ghost seat? The analyst on the right moved to a different slide. The machine ID matches logins from strategic partnerships assigned to temp profiles. But the usage pattern files opened. Time of day. The language in the titles matches the manager's email behavior. We believe the manager used the ghost seat to sanitize metadata. Manager name, Yoongi said. Jae Woo, the audit lead said. Title. Partnerships Manager,